Welcome to the Black Bibliophile podcast. The Black Bibliophile is a podcast where I, Jazz, read and talk about popular and little-known books, comics, zines, and authors. To quote Haruki Murakami, if you only read the books that everyone else is reading, you can only think what everyone else is thinking. And with that, let's start the show.
Welcome back to the Black Bibliophile. It's me, Jazz, your host, and this week I'm going to be talking about Empris Durden's book, Self-Love 101, Art is Healing, and Morgan Parker's book, There Are More Beautiful Things Than Beyonce. But first, I want to go back to last week's episode. In between now and the previous episode, I have finished 2 of the Sookie Stackhouse novels, and I just wanted to the word I'm looking for is take back part of my review for last week, because last week I said, hey, you guys should check these books out. These books are dope. These books are fun reads, even though they're kind of trash. I just finished Dead to the World, and I am disgusted. So the Sookie Stackhouse is a heinous character. Bill the vampire is high-key a rapist. And, you know, that's all I have to say about the matter. So I don't know. I don't recommend the book for people who are triggered by things like that and sexual assault like I am. So I'm going to take back those thoughts after rereading it. Am I going to still continue on and trudge through to see exactly how much my mindset has changed since I've read these books? Yes. Do I recommend you do so? Not so much. You can at your own risk. Some of them are fun. I still like a lot of the characters. But yeah, since I finished Dead to the World last week, I have not continued, not Dead to the World, Club Dead last week. I have not continued with Dead to the World. Like, I just haven't been able to pick up the book because of the way it ended. It was so incredibly heinous that I was like, oh no, this is terrible. And then Sookie is the worst, and so is Bill. But anyway, I wanted to have that disclaimer because my last episode was telling you guys to read this book, when really I'm just like, read it at your own risk and venture into this series. There's a ton of other books you can read about vampires that aren't like this. So yeah, check out what's her name? She's famous. Anne Rice books. Now, back to this week's review. I apologize for not having an episode last week. I was sick and just wasn't able to pull myself together to even give you guys a warning. So I have many apologies, and let's just move through. This week I'm talking about poetry, which I haven't done on this podcast. I'm a huge poetry fan. I started reading poetry when I was in middle school. I was quite dramatic, and I was writing my own really bad emo poetry at the time. And I was like, you know what? I have so many feelings. I need to get them out. And yeah, my poetry was trash, but it garnered a love and a respect for poets because they're able to create this art form that flows so well in different formats that I am not sure I'm able to do. So this week I read Empris Durden's book, Self-Love 101, Art is Healing. I heard about her a while ago and I didn't even know it was her. There's this one of her previous books, which is called, I have it written down, Digital Sunset, Digital Sunrise. And it was, the author of that book was Kaixxa. Sorry if I am butchering your writing pseudonym, but Empris wrote that book, and it's like a vaporwave love story told through poetry. And I was recommended this book by a bunch of women, I believe at the Free Women's the Free Black Women's Library of LA. So I was like, oh, I'm going to check this book. I'm going to check this book out. But then I started following Empris, not knowing it was the same person. And I was reading their poetry via their Instagram, which you should follow them on Instagram, and all their info and links to how to buy this book and all their other work will be in the description of the podcast below. So I read their work and I was like, oh, I need to read this book. I need to read this book. And then she posted about how she was trying to get reviews out on her awesome work. So I was like, oh, sure, I'll definitely review this because I'm a fan of the poems I've read on your Instagram. And yeah, she sent me the book and I'm really, really excited to talk about it with you guys because it's really, really good. But here's a little bio on Empris for you guys. Empris Durden is a postmodern Afrofuturist self-love poet living in Los Angeles, California. Her latest book, Self-Love 101 Art is Healing, is a hilarious, beautifully written poetry collection that encourages healing from heartbreak at times. At times, the book reads like a carefully curated Twitter timeline. At other times, the book unravels like a sacred but modern prayer for the strength to be gentle with oneself, to skip over negativity like video ads, sis, to eat pastoral interludes for breakfast, and to practice the daily art of self-love 101. The author of 3 books has performed at The Poetry Lounge, World Stage Performance Gallery, Beyond Baroque, Tia Chucha's Central Cultural, Nutra Institute Museum and Gallery, private events, and Washington University in St. Louis. Her work has been featured on the Free Black Women's Library and Good Black Reads. Empris wants to help other women realize that a lot of people look for love in others when we should really look inward and upward. Empris's ultimate goal is to secure a 3-book deal with Andrews McNeil Publishing. So Self-Love 101 Art is Healing is a lot like her bio said, and that most descriptions are. It's like a very curated Twitter feed with these really insightful blurbs or poems. And I love the layout of the book. The book is just this beautiful, plain, white book. There's no extra art or anything. And then in the small right-hand corner, it says Self-Love 101 Art is Healing. I'm putting a lot of description and like thought into the way the outside looks because I feel like a book's design lends to the story it's trying to tell, especially with poetry. Like the book itself is a piece of art. And so is the formatting and the layout. With poetry, I feel like you have to pay attention to everything the author puts into the package, not only the words, but what the thoughts that go into you holding the actual book. So one of the poems that, spoke to me was on page 59, and it's Don't Mind Me, just a young Black artist trying to make a living out here. And then Don't Mind Me, just a young Black model out here dodging vitriolic online hate. Just a young Black woman out here surviving somehow. Just a young Black YouTuber out here posting videos every week. Please like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye. I must admit that I'm ignorant. There are worse coats to wear in a winter. There are worse coats to wear. And each of those phrases or each of those poems I just read were individually on one page. So I feel like max there's like 4 lines of poetry per page, sometimes only 2, sometimes even 1. And it's beautiful. I love the way that the book completely enforces self-love. Like the title says, it's like this person or the poet, Empris maybe, or the character she's trying to portray is going through life trying to find a way to love themselves, even in a society that profits off of us not loving ourselves. Like us being happy doesn't make society run better, basically. Capitalism thrives on us being unhappy, so we can buy those things that would presumably make us happy, and then the cycle just continues. And Empris kind of tells that story in a way that in these digestible bites to make you feel like, oh, okay, so I get it. This is something trying to tell me like, okay, I should focus more on myself. I should try to ignore all the outside forces telling me to doubt myself. Like this poem, I tried to tell him there's no one like me. It's just that simple. Just believing that you are special, you are important. I love this book. I think it's great, and every other day I pick it up and I read it, and I read just like a page out of it, like this one, page 129. You don't need their approval. And sometimes I need to hear these things. We all need to hear that self-love is important, creating art is important, and it can be healing, like the title says. And I had a hard time trying to put into words or trying to put into a podcast my thoughts on this book, because I'm not great at talking about poetry. But so that's why it's taken me, like, I've had this book for a couple of months now, and I've been like, how do I explain how this book makes me feel? How do I put into words how Empris is empowering? Her words are empowering, funny, and like sad all at the same time. And it goes through relationships, friendships, work situations, society, being a Black woman, a Black artist, trying to find your space in the world. All of these things are touched upon in this book, and it's really amazing. And I kind of froze trying to talk about it. Like, it just became an overwhelming thing, and that I couldn't quite grasp. I'm like, okay, poetry. How do I talk about this? It kind of flows and ebbs in the structure and how there are no poems on the back of each page. So when you open the book to a random page, it's just empty pages with just maybe one line. And like on page 109, this poem, I went soul shopping, but I need a return. I mean, same. Like, I feel her poems in a way that I can't quite describe. They hit me right in the feels, is like the best way to say it. And I think also the way she does it in these small digestible blurbs, like we're used to reading things on Twitter, we're used to seeing these memes and captionable things, and she kind of taps into that whole bite-size content thing that's happening, where you have to create content that is so much that basically can fit in 150 characters so people can read it and get out. A lot of media is like that now, where everybody is convinced that you need these bite-sized moments. And I like that she captures that vibe, but says such powerful things in less than 150 characters on some of the pages. And you feel it. Her words are dope. She's dope. And I honestly didn't expect, because I connect a lot with poetry, but I didn't expect to love this book as much as I do. And I really do think you guys should pick up Self-Love 101, Art is Healing. I'm going to have links down below on how you can support Empris and follow her on Instagram and get her books. I think it's amazing. And if you want to read a book that helps you come to terms with society, especially if you're a Black woman or artist and you're just like, man, I'm having a hard time figuring out this self-love thing. I'm having this hard time figuring out just existing in a world. I would pick this book up, because on days when I'm having a bad day, I literally just open it up and read a line, and it kind of makes me feel a little better. Because every time it's just like, don't mind me, just a young Black artist trying to make a living out here. Like, I've been having the hardest time making podcasts, writing, and doing, all I need to do. And it's nice to open this book and know that somebody else out there is just trying to make that hustle, trying to make it. So yeah, Self-Love 101, Art is Healing is a beautiful book. And it's curated beautifully. The publishing, the binding, the way it's laid out is really smart. And I truly enjoy just the whole concept of the book. the simplicity of it is what makes me gravitate towards it, and I think you all will gravitate towards it too. It's a really dope book, and yeah. So I definitely recommend Self-Love 101 Art is Healing by Empris Durden. And because I have a hard time talking about poetry, I decided to pair Empris's book with another book that I think matches the same themes that I got at around the same time but didn't know how to talk about on the podcast, which is Morgan Parker's There Are More Beautiful Things Than Beyonce. And this book is dope, and I'll read the bio to you. So, the only thing more beautiful than Beyonce is God, and God is a black woman sipping rosé, drawing a lavender bath, texting her mom, belly laughing in the therapist's office, feeling unloved, being on display, daring to survive. Morgan Parker stands at the intersections of vulnerability and performance, of desire and disgust, of tragedy and excellence. Unrelentingly feminist, tender, ruthless, and sequined, these poems are an altar to the complexities of black womanhood in an age of non-indictments and deja vu, in a time of wars over bodies and power. These poems celebrate and mourn. There are chorus chanting, "You're going to give us the love we need." I paired this book with Empresses because of the theme of self-love and black women declaring that we too deserve love. We deserve respect. And yeah. And it's just two books with similar themes done in two completely different ways, which I also like. It's like both of the books are touting and championing for self-love and respect for black women, and basically carving out spaces for ourselves and showing that we are indeed human and not these monoliths and not the typical monolithic image of the strong black woman. We can be vulnerable, we can be human, we can be people. And that's what these two books show. And let me give you a quick bio on Morgan Parker. Morgan Parker is the author of There Are More Beautiful Things Than Beyonce, Other People's Comfort Keeps Me Up at Night, and the forthcoming poetry collection Magical Negro, which came out in February. Her debut young adult novel, Who Put the Song On, is forthcoming in late 2019, and her debut book of nonfiction will release in 2020. Parker received her bachelor's in anthropology and creative writing from Columbia University and her MFA in poetry from NYU. Her poetry and essays have been published and anthologized in numerous publications, including the Paris Review, the Breakbeat Poets, New American Poetry, The Age of Hip Hop, The Best American Poetry 2016, The New York Times, and The Nation. Parker is recipient of the 2017 National Endowment for the Arts of Literature Fellowship, winner of the 2016 Pushcart Prize, and a Cave Kinham Graduate Fellow. She's the creator and host of Reparations Live at the Ace Hotel with Tommy Pico. She curates the Poets with Attitude reading series, and with Angel Nefis, she's the Other Black Girl Collective. She's a Sagittarius and she lives in Los Angeles. So Morgan Parker's book, There Are More Beautiful Things Than Beyonce. I grabbed this book at Book Soup in LA when I went there for a reading, and I was just standing around looking at their poetry selection or their just like staff recommendations, and I saw this book and I immediately gravitated towards it because of the title, and I was like, yeah, word, there are more beautiful things than Beyonce. And I just, before even reading the back or figuring out how much it was, I just grabbed it. I was like, this is a definite buy and I need it, so just take my money and let me get out of here. So when I first read it, I was like, the poem, The President Has Never Said the Word Black, and it's talking about Barack Obama, and I thought about it and I was like, word, this is wild. So I'm gonna read this poem, and sorry in advance for, my reading. I do stutter some, but here it goes. The president has never said the word black. To the extent that one begins to wonder if he's broken. It is not so difficult to open teeth and brass taxes. The president is all like 5 on the bleep hand side. The president be like, we lost a young boy today. The pursuit of happiness is guaranteed for all fellow Americans. He is nobody special like us. He says brothers and sisters. What kind of bodies are movable and feast? What color are visions? When he opens his mouth, a chameleon is inside, starving. And I was like, that shit's heavy. That shit's wild. And I never thought about it. He never said the word black. And I was like, that's a problem. And her book, so this whole book just talks about being a black woman and the struggles of being a black woman. There's a poem called Hottentot Venus, and if you haven't read the original Hottentot Venus poem, she touches on that. And if you haven't read about the Hottentot Venus, the history behind that, I suggest you check that. Just Google it. I wrote a whole paper about it, and I can leave the link down below, but it's basically the dehumanization of black female bodies. And this woman was put in a zoo, and she was poked and prodded, and they inserted things inside of her, and it's disgusting, but it's an important part of history that everyone should know about. But she talks about the Hottentot Venus. And my favorite poem in this book is Another Autumn in New York. I read it over and over and over and over again, and I just love it so much because I identify it with it completely. So I'll read that one, and then I'm just like gonna stop reading poems and just talk about them. So here we go. Another Autumn in New York. When I drink anything out of a martini glass, I feel untouched by professional and sexual rejection. I am a dreamer with empty hands, and I like the chill. I will not be attending the party tonight because I'm microwaving multiple lean cuisines and watching Wife Swap, which is designed to get back at fathers as westernized media is often wont to do. I don't know when I got so punk rock, but when I catch myself in the mirror, I feel stronger. So when at 5 in the afternoon, something on my TV says time is not on your side, I don't give any shits at all. Instead, I smoke a joint like I'm a teenager and eat a whole box of cupcakes. Stepping on leaves, I get the first night thrill. Confuse the meanings of castle and slum. Exotic and erotic, I bless the dark, tuck myself into a canyon of steel. I breathe dry honeysuckle and hope. I live somewhere imaginary. I like this poem because it kind of celebrates those moments when you're alone, when you just lay in bed all day, you sleep in, you watch trash TV, you eat terribly, and then you wander around your neighborhood or city and live this kind of interior life that is imaginary and beautiful and fanciful. And it's a part of Black women that's often not shown. We're always shown, again, as these monoliths of strength, as these impervious to just being normal, relaxing, chilling, being fanciful, eating cupcakes and watching Wife Swap. I lay around and watch 90 Day Fiance. It's complete trash, but I completely recommend that show if you guys are, into complete television trash. But it's stuff you don't get to see. You don't see it in books. You don't see it on TV. It's always these strong Black women fighting for the cause, which is dope. But we are complex beings. We contain multitudes. And I dig this poem because it shows that side. It not only shows it, but it grandizes it. It makes it this beautiful, ethereal moment. It makes it something that white women get all the time. You get movies of white women chilling, watching TV, eating snacks in their PJs, living their best lives. But Black women always have to be sassy or like on their shit or fighting for change. we don't get the complexities that white women get in media. We don't get that. So I think it's pretty tight, and I really enjoy her book because she often shows the different sides of Black women that aren't shown, the beauty, the pain, all of it, the sadness. And then I like how she constantly touches on Beyonce. Beyonce becomes this character in this book that, I don't know, like, I have to read it again. And that's kind of what's cool about poetry. You have to just analyze and reread and reread and reread, and you pull different things out every time you read it. So I do completely recommend There Are More Beautiful Things Than Beyonce by Morgan Parker and Self-Love 101 by Empris Durden. These two books show the complexities of Black womanhood, of self-love, of just being amazing artists, both of them. And I think you should buy them both at the same time and read them at the same time because they're good companion pieces. The books really do complement each other, and I accidentally got them at the same time. I didn't expect them to mash so well, but I think if you read Self-Love 101 and then read There Are More Beautiful Things Than Beyonce, and you go back and forth, you'll glean so many different things and so many different experiences. They hold so much within them. These books are beautiful, beautiful representations of what poetry should be and is. So check out Empris Durden's Self-Love 101. I'll leave Self-Love 101 Art is Healing. I'll leave links down below to where you can get it, where you can follow her. Everything will be in the description box. And There Are More Beautiful Things Than Beyonce by Morgan Parker. I will also leave links to all her work down below, and also where you can follow her on social media. And yeah, please pick these books up because they're very, very good. And it took me ages to be able to talk about them because I feel self-conscious talking about poetry because I don't think I'm good at it. But I needed you guys to know. I need you guys to know, okay, I need you to know about these books so you can go get them and experience them. So I may not have given them justice with the way I've talked about them, but I'm so happy that I've talked about them. So you guys can go get them. Go to your local bookshops and ask your the bookkeepers. That sounds very, very wrong. Bookkeepers? Yeah, I don't think it's bookkeepers. But go to your local bookshops and ask them to order both of these books, and so you can read them because they're dope. And yeah, if you want to support the podcast, or if you would like me to review anything, like maybe Empress's other books, Digital Sunset and Digital Sunrises, then please email me at theblackbibliophile@gmail.com. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you'd like me to review it, I'd be super down. I really like her books, and I would love to talk about them more on the podcast. And if you guys want to follow me on social media, you can follow me on Instagram at The Black Bibliophile and on Twitter at The Black Bibliophile. All the info will be down below. If you also want to support the podcast, you can go support the podcast on Ko-fi, or you can become a patron on Patreon, where I do book clubs and release episodes early. I write essays, I do book lists and all kinds of fun stuff, and it's only $1 a month if you guys want to support the podcast. And yeah, please check these books out. They're really great, and and to go back to the beginning, maybe don't check out the Sookie Stackhouse novels because they're problematic as hell, and I'm finding that out slowly. You know, you gotta give me, some leeway. I haven't read those books since I was like 15. I'm 28 now, and I stand by a lot of what I said, except that there's now a huge disclaimer about how problematic those books are. And yeah, and a lot of the characters are trash, so maybe don't read them. Instead of reading those, read Self-Love 101, Art is Healing by Empris Durden, and There Are More Beautiful Things Than Beyonce by Morgan Parker, because those books are beautiful and amazing, and we all need to read more poetry in our lives. Anyways, thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye!